You dog! Damn it!
Welcome to the motherfucking We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Claressa Shields. Price must come to America if she wants the smoke. The Detroit native made a hush-hush trip to the Welsh capital to watch welterweight champion Lauren Price successfully defend her titles against Stephanie Pinedo ahead of a potential super fight. She's Olympic champion and she's undefeated. She's hungry and she feels she's the next best and skilled enough that she can beat me in a fight, Shields told The Ring. Price is naturally smaller, competing at 147, while Shields has won world titles at middle, super middle, and is currently the heavyweight world champion. Shields, who defeated Emma Kozin in Cardiff in January of 2022, is happy to entertain her rival, but says that she's the A-side and she's calling the shots. I believe 160 is the lowest option. Really, 165, honestly, she said. If this fight were to materialize, and I'm not sure that it's going to, though if it did, how much credit are you supposed to give Claressa for fighting someone who's that much smaller than she is? Lauren has never competed at any of the weights where Claressa has fought. Claressa continued, I would try and eat a few less burgers to get down to 160. Another question is, where the fight would take place. You want me to come to the UK, you pay me that money, she said. Lauren fought in front of 7,000 people. I fought in front of 18,000. I have sold out events in my last 3 fights. We know I'm a big draw. As far as me and Price, I'm the bigger star. I'm the more accomplished fighter. I'm pound for pound #1. She wants to be mentioned in those names, but it's always me coming to get these girls, and not these girls coming to get me. I don't think Lauren is big enough. She's not wrong. For me to come over to the UK, she has to come to America if she wants the smoke. I'm not gonna say the fight's off or it can't be made. If she says I'm too scared to come to America, I want the fight here, I'll be like, it's okay. While Price is smaller, she believes her speed would help her upset Shields. The self-styled greatest woman of all times disagrees. Lauren is not faster than me, she said. I saw the film. You're 5'5", you look fast, your arms are short, but you're not faster than me. No, your speed is not faster than mine. Your footwork is not better than mine. You don't punch harder than me. As far as defense, we know you got to work on that. Shields, who claimed the gold at the 2012 and 2016 Olympics before turning pro, in the fall of 2016 remains unbeaten and says she always finds a way to win. She expects that if the Price fight happens, she would bring out her best. I'm very hard to beat. You can be stronger, you can be faster, you can have more fights, you can be bigger, you can be smaller, and I still dominate, she said. I'm looking forward to fighting a girl who has some of that same experience. Olympic champion, undefeated. I fought girls who were undefeated, but they weren't Olympic champions. I think Olympic champions are very, very hard to beat, because of course, I am one. I think Claressa Shields beats Lauren Price handily. I don't think Lauren's performance this past Saturday was the best advertisement for what she can do at middle, what she can do against Shields. All she can do is lose. But I also don't think we're on the eve of that fight for a few reasons. For starters, neither Claressa Shields or Lauren Price holds any alphabet titles in the middleweight division. Thus, it's hard for me to believe that you could put a fight like this together with no titles on the line. Well, what about the money? Could the money bring them together? I don't think there's enough of that to go around either. Boxer, who's now with BBC, is not getting the budget on BBC that they were getting on Sky, and Dimitri Salita, he's never had a big budget, which is resulting in a stalemate. To get Claressa Shields to go to the UK, you've got to kick out a lot of money, but the same is true in reverse. Lauren's not going to travel to America for peanuts on the dollar. You got to pay her too. And for the risk that she would be taking to fight Claressa Shields in the middleweight division, where Claressa doesn't even hold the title, there has to be a financial incentive. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. That's what it all boils down to. If you can't pay her to take on a naturally bigger, accomplished fighter with a lot more experience than she has, guess what? She's not going to. It's that simple. This mock face-off that they staged
this past weekend was all much ado about nothing, but you'll notice how seamlessly both Claressa Shields and Mikaela Mayer moved off of a fight with each other to go in different directions. Mikaela going in the direction of a Chantel Cameron fight, Claressa seemingly going in the direction of a Lauren Price fight. Two fights died on the vine this past weekend.
Mikaela Mayer versus Lauren Price and Mikaela Mayer versus Claressa Shields.
Two fights died on the vine this weekend.
After Lauren quite cryptically claimed that Mikaela doesn't want the fight without providing any context.
Well, that's because there is none. She's just looking for a way out.
Claressa Shields versus Mikaela Mayer, that was only a conversation briefly, that also died on the vine, for the same reason the Price fight might not happen. Because of the money. If you want Mikaela Mayer to move up to fight you at 160 or 165, you have to pay her, and you have to pay her well to do it. Claressa has no reputation for kicking out big money to her opponents.
Without financial compensation, why would these naturally smaller women concede that much weight to you?
They wouldn't. There's not a belt on the line, there's not a lot of money in it for them, so why would they do it?
They wouldn't. In spite of the hullabaloo this past weekend over what could be a Shields versus Price fight, I don't expect that to happen anytime in the near future, if ever.
In men's junior middleweight news, Terence Crawford praises Sebastian Fundora as the best junior middleweight in the world, as Fundora dominated Keith Thurman in a one-sided fight for a sixth-round stoppage win last weekend to defend his WBC junior middleweight title. Crawford took to his social media that week to answer a few series of questions, and a hot-button topic was getting his thoughts on the towering inferno, Fundora. When Crawford was asked who the best at junior middleweight is, he said it was Fundora, and went on to pick him to beat Jaron Ennis if they ever faced each other.
You agree with that?
Subject of Jaron Ennis and his true abilities becomes rather nebulous, because for a guy who's got as many fights as he does, we should know a lot more about him. What he can take, what he can't.
Guy's got a lot of fights.
Against a lot of nobodies. I can't give you a conclusive answer as to who would win between him and Sebastian, though what would strengthen Boots' argument is if he beats Xander, and I don't even know if he's going to do that.
Right now, I don't see anybody beating Fundora at 154, said Crawford. Only time will tell. Crawford, a former junior middleweight champion, albeit very briefly, also said that he was open to fighting Fundora in recent years, but the bout never came to be. I was trying to fight him, but they said I wasn't a big enough star, said Crawford, because I'm scary, remember? Crawford only fought once at junior middle and beat Israel Madrimov by UD in August of 2024 for the WBA title in September. Crawford stepped up to super middle and beat Canelo Alvarez for the undisputed title and became a 5-weight world champion before retiring that December.
Do you think he's just being spiteful when he says Sebastian beats Boots? Because, you know, sometimes fighters do that. Because they don't like one guy, they pick another guy to beat him.
Is he being petty?
Some part of him might be, but there is also something to be said about Sebastian. Adding wrinkles to his game. He's not giving up his height and length, same way that he used to bang in the booth.
What got him knocked down by Erickson Lubin? What got him knocked out by Brian Mendoza?
Sebastian Fundora has shown new wrinkles to his game, not holding his feet as much, getting on his toes, using his jab when, if he uses it, he's a very, very difficult guy to get to. He's supposed to be in the process of negotiating a fight with Josh Kelly. If they were to make that fight, Sebastian were to win that fight, it would certainly lend itself to him being the #1 junior middleweight in the world, but at this time, I wouldn't rush to that assumption. I wouldn't say that. Not when Xander's got a belt and Josh has got a belt.
What the fuck's supposed to make you better than them if you don't fight them? What's supposed to make you #1? Beating an old Keith Thurman?
Sebastian has looked quite menacing his last few fights, make no mistake, but those guys he's been fighting don't pose the same challenges that Boots would or Xander would.
Can't say he's #1 over them unless he fights them.
They're all at the same weight, so there's no reason that he shouldn't. New tricks in his bag. He's definitely made himself a more formidable fighter than before, a more wily fighter, given his natural physical gifts. Being that size at 154 makes for an awkward night.
Tack on a judicious jab and some of the most destructive punching power anywhere in the division, and yeah, there's an argument.
He could be #1, but we don't all regularly gather every Saturday night to just imagine the fights and think about what would happen. We gather to watch them, to watch the fighters show and prove.
Not all fighters are created equal. Some fight for legacy and some are just prize fighters. I think Sebastian is more the latter. than the former?
Could he be number one? All depends on how much he's willing to prove it.
There's a lot of fighters, they fancy themselves businessmen and have a jaded perspective on the sport of boxing, how they navigate their careers, and that's fine.
You could do that, but what you need to understand is what draws the audience in. What makes us all watch your fights?
Gotta be an element of danger. There's gotta be an element of risk. You have to risk something.
Because you weren't risking much boxing today's version of Keith Thurman. I said he was going to brutalize Keith. I said he was going to get him out of there, and he did.
Getting Boots out of there, Virgil, Xander, that might be a lot more difficult. That's how we're gonna know who's number one at 154. Anything short of that, and the title's up for grabs.
But according to Terence Crawford, Sebastian's number one at the weight, though according to Xander Zayas, the only unified champion at the weight, Sebastian is an easy puzzle to solve.
Xander stepped inside the ring after Fundora breezed past Cordell Booker in 4 rounds in March of last year, but the 6'5.5" champion had other plans and pursued a Tim Tszyu rematch rather than satisfy his mandatory challenger. Fundora was the WBC and WBO junior middleweight champion at the time, and stripped of the latter soon after, failing to make the fight with Xander, who has since captured the vacant title with a points win over Jorge Garcia Perez in July before unifying divisional titles 6 months later against then-champion Abbas Baru.
That's how you know Xander Zayas ain't just talking because he's got a mouth and he means business. The moment he became Sebastian's mandatory, he was seated ringside, in his face, ready to make things happen. When they didn't, he didn't go cry in the corner about it. He moved on.
The 23-year-old Puerto Rican is set to defend his WBO and WBA world titles against Jaron Ennis on June 27th at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, headlining a DAZN pay-per-view. Zayas is ranked number 3 by the ring at junior middle, while Fundora is rated 1 spot above him. If Zayas successfully tackles the tall task that is Jaron Ennis, he's already promised to rip his heart out. He can potentially face a literally taller task by taking on Fundora to further unify the division. It was supposed to be made last year, Zayas told the ring. Now he's saying it makes a lot more sense because I have 2 belts. Well, he had them before and he could have kept them. He lost the belt because he wanted to.
Yeah, because he surrendered it. Didn't want to satisfy his mandatory. Wanted to fight Tim Tszyu again.
Sebastian Fundora is a good fighter. He's a tall, lanky guy and decided to use his reach in his last couple of fights. So that's a good thing. I feel like with the right movement and game plan, he's a puzzle that's easy to solve. Fundora, 24-1-1 with 16 knockouts scored. A one-sided 6th round stoppage win against Keith Thurman. He was supposed to beat him, said Zayas. He dominated a version of Thurman who hasn't been an elite level fighter since 2019. He's not the same anymore. If he didn't beat him, then it would be a problem. He was supposed to do what he did.
It's hard to argue with Xander's logic.
I was not surprised by his performance. Where Fundora goes from here remains to be seen. Fundora might be inclined to face WBC interim champion Virgil Ortiz or take another in-house fight with the PBC by giving former undisputed champion Jermell Charlo a chance to regain the title. He never lost in the ring. After toying with Thurman, Fundora declared that the division runs through him, but Zayas isn't buying it.
If Fundora's promoter Samson Lukowicz is saying that they're not fighting outside of the PBC, said Zayas, so how can you go into a negotiation knowing that this guy doesn't want to fight anybody but the elderly staff that they have at the PBC?
Yeah, Xander made those comments a little over a week ago, I think it was, and since then, news is broken that they may yet fight outside of the PBC against Josh Kelly, potentially in the UK.
We talked about that in a previous video and how it's Louis DeCubas Jr. handling those negotiations, not Samson Lukowicz, which I would call a good thing, because all Samson's gonna do is muck it up.
Fuck it up.
Though why did they change their stance so quickly? It was immediately after Sebastian's win over Thurman that Samson Lukowicz asserted whatever they do, it's gonna be on the PBC side of things, to then go into negotiations with Josh Kelly.
What happened to staying on the PBC side of things?
You got a former undisputed champion, Jermell Charlo, over there.
What happened to staying on the PBC side of things?
What I think happened? They know that none of those fights that the PBC can make in-house, none of those fights pay out but so much. You've put Sebastian Fundora behind a paywall more than once, and I don't imagine very many people paid to climb over it.
Paid per view.
The only hope you really have of making money from this kid is if you rent him out to someone else and let them promote the show.
Let them pay your fighter, at which point all you've got to do is sit back and collect your percentage of his purse at no expense to you.
In short, that's what I believe happened. They got to acknowledge that you can't make money from Sebastian just leaving him at the PBC fighting PBC fighters. To turn over a profit from this kid, you're going to have to rent him out to someone else. Enter the Josh Kelly fight that presents a beatable opponent,
A world champion.
albeit a beatable opponent that might kick out some money. Fight Josh Kelly, you still get to box on pay-per-view, which is what Sebastian has been doing, just on another platform, on DAZN. Because if Matchroom's the one footing the bill,
It's gonna be on DAZN.
Xander Zayas believes that Sebastian is a puzzle that can be solved. In some ways, it already has been solved by Brian Mendoza, except Sebastian was fighting a very different fight back then than the one he's fighting now. So how do you beat him now?
How do you solve that puzzle now?
With head movement and level changes, followed by looping punches over the top. To get to a Sebastian Fundora, who's already a tall drink of boxing, using his jab a lot more now, you've got to slip past that jab or come in just behind it with the head movement, weaving under any sweeping hooks that he might also throw,
Counter with looping punches over the top.
all of which is easier said than done. Most things are, but that's how you do it. That's how you solve that puzzle. No way to fight this guy backpedaling and circling away from him. You're just giving him a clearer target when you do that. The way to get to him is to use his height against him, and you can.
What?
Sebastian's height and length is often talked about in the context of being an advantage, but it can be an impediment depending on how you approach him.
Head movement, upper body movement, level changes can make it awkward for Sebastian to get off his punches because he's so tall. It's awkward for a taller, longer fighter to fight somebody a lot shorter than they are. Even worse when they're making themselves a small target.
That's the head movement. That's the level changes. That's not giving Sebastian a clear target.
Gotta crowd him in the pocket.
Where he is most vulnerable, where the shorter fighter with the shorter arms will be able to string together punches a bit faster than Sebastian because his arms are so long. It's awkward for him to punch within close quarters.
He can do it. We've seen him do it in the past, but that's where he's most vulnerable. That's what you want.
And that's how you solve that puzzle, using a high guard or a mid guard, moving your head, moving your torso, changing levels.
Looping punches over the top. Now, how many fighters that you can think of can execute a plan like that? I think Xander Zayas has the ingredients. I think Jaron Ennis does also.
Got some physical advantages as well that a fighter like Keith Thurman didn't have. Xander Zayas and Boots Ennis are both bigger men than a Keith Thurman, fresher, younger fighters.
With a fresher set of legs.
Discrepancy in height between them and Sebastian is not as dramatic as it was between Sebastian and Keith. They would still be smaller than Sebastian, but not so small that the fight is near impossible to win.
That's what it takes.
To solve that Rubik's Cube, it would take educated pressure, head movement, upper body movement, level changes, and looping punches over the top.
And you can get him. You can solve that Rubik's Cube.